one of my close friends, Joe Montemanuro, he very, very, very talented coach educator, recently coached at Arsenal Football Club, women's, and just recently appointed at Juventus in Italy. So with those type of connections, every 3.5 years in this country, or depending what university, D1 or D2, you get the opportunity to to travel overseas with your team. So we've made a decision now to create pathways with professional clubs, and for our spring break, instead of going to Cancun or having a good time, where we're actually going to play against teams like Chelsea, West Ham, Arsenal, the development squads, and try and expose our players for those opportunities, and then keeping those relationships together for the following year. Again, even though we can't travel, individual players may turn around and say, "Hey, coach, can you call Coach Joe? And I'd love to train with the under-23s in Italy, or at West Ham, or with Matthew Beard at Liverpool." So, and that's something I'm working really hard to create. And in terms of our football and what we want to develop, is we're constantly adding layers of resources to a point where I want the players to feel like they are professional. The only positive difference is they're at school. So, but having access to them, every day, it allows us to develop and something unique that the players can remember in years to come. In terms of how big our squads are, we're looking at a squad of 32 to 36 players. Our school has various educational pathways. So to give you an example, we had a girl who needed a 1060 to get into nursing, and she only got a 980, but she still got in, but she came in undecided, made sure her grades were really, really high, and then transferred into the program. And so that's available. And then each major has a different SAT. At the moment, the school is still taking it, but the school will still give the student athletes the opportunity to, and more importantly, their GPA is super, super important. That's the main priority. So whatever that GPA is, our school has an educational academic merit award system, and based on that GPA will determine how much academic money. To give you an example, we have girls that receive as low as 7,500 academic, as high as 23,000 academic. So in that capacity, when you look at our school's of $55,000, and it includes boarding, tuition, food, accommodation, everything. So in that aspect, it pays to be smart. Let's put it that way. But athletically, we have nine full scholarships. The school allows us, and how that works is based on the amount it costs to go to school, which is 55,000. You multiply that by 9, and that's my budget. So some coaches spend that on a few players. What we're trying to develop a culture. If we're going to have 32 players or 34, 36, we're going to have 2 squads. We may have 2 squads of 18, but the beautiful thing is that the NCAA only gives us 24 airline tickets, plus coaching staff and medical staff. So whether we have 26, 28, 32, or 36, only 24 travel. So in that aspect, it becomes very competitive, but at the same time, it's so important that without the rest of the squad, there's no way that 24 would have been developed properly. And that's because a lot of kids ask me, a lot of parents, oh, you've got a big squad. And based on the research I've done with the top 4 teams in the country in our division, they also have squads of between 28 and 34 players. So, and that's there for a reason. I'm sure if it said they only had 24 to 26, maybe they don't get to the playoffs. And 2 of them actually used 18 players in the final game. So it tells you that they have a lot of faith in the development of the squad, where if your best 11 is off the field and your second best is on, there shouldn't be so much of a difference. If the coach fulfills his duty to make sure everybody is playing at their potential based on the way they design the session, and more importantly, the mentality of what the coach allows the players to do, which is basically to be, I mean, we have a saying, to be bold, to be creative, to be brave, to be bold, and to be creative. So we just keep asking them to be those 3 things at every single moment of the game. And then, based on the training we do, hopefully the outcomes will be positive. So, and for the most part, we're going to be between 32 and 36 players. The other thing I could mention quickly before I open it up to any questions is our school just approved a brand new field with a running track. We're going to have our new headquarters on our current field overlooking the city of Philadelphia. So Thomas Jefferson University is based in the city of Philadelphia, but Jefferson University, which was the formation of Philadelphia, is actually based out of Manayunk and East Falls. Beautiful campus. Looks like a huge park. So that little stadium, it's going to have a backdrop of the city, and then on the other side is a 5-story brand new state-of-the-art dorms with a plaza, a boutique stadium with seating dug into the sort of side of the hill. So it's going to be want to keep the nature component. So there's a lot of things we're doing from that in terms of semi-professional and moving on, being an advocate for a professional women's team playing out of Philadelphia. So I won't go into that part, but that's something we're doing behind the scenes.
Coach, wonderful information you sharing with us, and it's nice to know that the atmosphere that you're creating is one of a professional atmosphere with your kids in environment. That's the word I would want to use. That environment is a professional environment, although they are still studying and they're student athletes. It's wonderful to know that you're keeping that environment just in case kids want to go on to be professional players. That leads me to ask you this question, Coach. What are some of the characteristics you look for in your potential female student athletes?
One of the things, if you asked me this question a few years ago, and maybe 5 years ago, would have been different. And as I evolve as a coach and mature as a coach, I turn 60 in next week. So
you don't look that, Coach. You look 50, man.
So thank you. For me, and one of the reasons why I do a lot of clinics is to really get to know the person on the field and off the field. And we want our players to be servant leaders, and lead by serving their team, the team values. Because I always go back to when someone tells me how good they are, I just go back to, all the things that we ask them to do. And if they're doing those things, then we're very happy. And then, of course, I have another thing, what we call the MVP, and most people obviously see as the most valuable player. For us, we want to find who are the most valuable people on the team, who's the most valuable person on the team. And when you expand on that, it becomes known that every single person is important on that team, and how those people interact, and how when they play their little 4v4 game, they want to be playing on field A because head coach is watching field A. On field B, maybe it's the assistant coach. On field C, it could be the goalkeeping coach. On field D, it could be the injured players. So if you want to perform, based on what we see, players move down. So we do have a very competitive mentality and sort of a competitive cauldron. We have fitness testing, but the fitness testing is not based on if you don't pass the test, you don't practice. It's all individually based. So if Anthony does the 5-10-5 pro agility in 4 seconds of 4.49, and then mid-year or at the end of the year he does 4.42, so he's improved. So these are the things we look at, but really it's the character of the individual and how that person relates to the teammates, his coaches, but really being a servant leader.
It also seems to me that you have a sort of a family culture in your team. It seems to me that you have that family, that bond, that it's not about an individual player. It's about what we represent on and off the field, coach.
Yes, and I'm the grandfather. Let's put it that way. And I get to whip him if I have to.
Right,
and,
right.
You know, but it's something that it's taken time. You know, we had access to a very close friend who's he's actually a consultant pastor, Brett Gould. He's a culture coach, and he's integrated a lot of little word games and activities that really brings out the human aspect of team unity, and how important it is to be your best at training, because if you're not helping your teammate. So, but you know, yeah, if there's anything else or any other specific questions, if anyone has.
Thank you.